the biggest thing for me is I just couldn't keep up. I couldn't go to the pub and buy drinks. I couldn't like dress all super feminine and in these skirt suits. It's too uncomfortable. I like to dress boyish. And then once I did that, I was comfortable in myself. And I swear to you, it was like an overnight change. I wasn't so like beaten up by it because I was not holding all of this tension in my shoulders trying to be someone I wasn't.
Hannah Ajikawo. Hannah is the founder of a company called Revenue Funnel, helping B2B operations improve their systems. Training their sales teams, improving GTM.
A lot of activity around sales was noisy. I was genuinely one of the reps in my team that didn't really hit the activity metrics because I just thought they were stupid. 70 calls a day, 3 hours on the phone. I'd do 3 hours on the phone. I just wasn't willing to make pointless calls. Be honest with yourself, understand the value that you bring to others and the organization you're part of. If you develop a culture where your job is to bring out the best in people, you'll get the best out of people.
Hannah Ajikawo, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sandy. You have a really interesting name.
Thank you. Yeah. A lot of people say it sounds like Santa Claus.
It looks like it should be Santa Claus. And that's the first thing I thought. And then I look carefully and like, it's not that. Yeah.
No, it's not. You know, I'm from Scotland. Clunas is a Scottish name and Sandy's short for Alexander. I never tell people that. Not many people know that. So now, yeah. That's where it comes from. My
ancestry leads back to Scotland, but we don't want to get into that. That's going to be a very different kind of topic if we dive into that. But yeah,
that's another podcast entirely. The first thing I wanted to get into with you is kind of upon research for this, one of the big themes that you kind of seem to speak about quite a lot is that this idea of thinking that doing more is the same as achieving more. And it's something that I've been also thinking about quite a lot. And I mean, I don't necessarily just mean through the lens of kind of sales and GTM specifically, but you know, in general, I think often we think we need to be busy and doing a lot more, and therefore we're achieving more and moving towards our goals. And I'd love for you to touch on that, but also give some ways that we can be a little bit more deliberate when it comes to gaining more business, being more successful, or just trying to be a better version of ourselves.
Yeah. I love that you took the conversation here. This is so interesting. So I had a big shift for myself over the last 8 years, and I think just becoming a mother and having to keep another human alive, that's what it starts with, right? Just don't die. Like that's kind of the fear you have in the first few weeks and months. And I think I've been in this B2B sales space, I think any sales space where the whole ethos and the way that you get sucked into it is this kind of like meritocracy. You do these things and you get these outcomes, right? And a lot of that is around volume and activity. And the reason why is because it allows companies to be much more predictable. If we get 5 reps in and they take these 100 actions a day, then we usually get this out the other end. So imagine that's just drummed into you, right? 5, 10, 15, almost 20 years. And then you get to this point where you have to reconsider your whole life and think, oh, actually, I don't feel like that has always served me. And then you just start reevaluating everything. And I think love it, hate it, very confusing and unprecedented time that was COVID. It just got everyone to pause. So I say that to set the context of when it comes to us working out how we kind of slow down from doing more and be a bit more intentional, which means it actually changes the pace. The focus is on how do I understand a bit more about what I want and be honest with myself about what I want? How does that connect to the company or whatever I'm working for to kind of create value for? And then of course, make money. And then you start to think, okay, now that I'm honest with myself and what I want, how can I figure out the route to get there more effectively? And I think before what we do is we're just like, if I just take these 100 actions a day, then that's hopefully it gets me there. But I really early on realized that a lot of activity around sales was noisy. I was genuinely one of the reps in my team, every manager will probably vouch for this, that didn't really hit the activity metrics because I just thought they were stupid. Especially after a while, I'm like, I've still hit target without doing these ridiculous things, which is like 70 calls a day, 3 hours on the phone. I'd do 3 hours on the phone, but I could talk. Love doing that. But I just wasn't willing to make pointless calls. And you knew that was going to be pointless for a lot of people because you get people calling loop lines and just trying to get the numbers up. So I love that you started there, but really be honest with yourself, understand the value that you bring to others and the organization you're part of, and go find the pathway or the vehicle that's going to allow you to get that result in a more effective way, rather than just kind of being busy for the busy sake.
You made a really interesting point, actually, and that's something else that I wanted to get into is how often in your experience have you found that these kind of issues and this stagnation that people go through is system-led by the organization that someone is in versus human-led by the individual? Do you know what I mean?
A little bit. So my interpretation of that is when you say stagnation, when they're slowing down or maybe not getting the results that they want, is it through the systems or is it through their own ability or inability? Okay, cool. So having worked with a lot of BDRs and SDRs, right? So those junior sales reps, mostly in a fractional capacity. So I've kind of stepped in for a year and a half to take over, or a year, whatever. Because I know that systems can create reps that become robots. I would always, with that knowledge, right? I probably wouldn't have known that, but with the knowledge, because I know what can be created, I find that the systems tend to a lot of the time, they strip the human out of the work and try to kind of like, it's like, I'm going to take your soul, I'm going to put this engine inside you, and you just go and do these activities. And hopefully that works. But what's happened, of course, is in the last seven-ish years, 5 years more specifically, everybody wants the human back, right? I want to know about Sandy. Like, I love that you're going to show me the demo, but Sandy, what do you do on the weekend? Like, what makes you smile? What makes you sad? What makes you light up? And they don't get that. So what happens is even these junior reps come in and they're like, I didn't know I could say stuff like that. I didn't know I could share that. I do that. I just needed to, I've got 20 minutes. I've got to get all these questions out. And that's unfortunate. So I think more often than not, it's a lot of the time the system. It's really obvious when it's the human. They just come in and they're like, sales isn't for me. And then it takes them a few months. They're like, oh my God, I hate this. But then oftentimes you see someone in it for a long time and it's just the system's just created these robots. So I don't know why we're angry with AI. I'm like, it's kind of what we've been trying to build ourselves. So in ourselves, sorry.
It's something that really resonates with me. So not to get too kind of inside baseball about my own life, but I was kind of very much like freelance marketing for like 5-6 years, working with SMEs, like almost like micro businesses, all this. And then, stepped into this kind of startup AI world in the last sort of couple of years. And I've had to become really confident with what you just said there, like feeling like I'm allowed to inject a bit of personality and a bit of who Sandy is and not be ashamed to be like, oh yeah, no, 11 a.m. I was surfing this morning. Like I went surfing this, rather than feeling like I have to toe a bit more of a kind of corporate party line because that's perhaps the ecosystem I'm involved in now. And actually, as I've become, so I've been doing this for about 2 years, and as I've become more confident in it, it's actually started to stack more and more success the more and more I allow myself to be myself,
Magic. I experienced exactly that. I mean, in my first 2.5 years of sales now, the biggest thing for me is I just couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep up with the people in my team who, like, not all of them, some of them had come, I say come from money. For me, money was, oh my God, your parents have 10 grand in their account. Like that was like, wow, I've been helping my parents. I don't know what that stuff is, right? So I just could not keep up. I couldn't go to the pub and buy drinks. I did not have the money to do that. I couldn't like dress all super feminine and in these skirt suits. It's too uncomfortable. I sit with my legs open, for God's sake. Wearing skirts didn't really work for me. High heels are uncomfortable. So all of these things, for me, it was like, by the way, I'm gay. I like to dress boyish. That's it. And then once I did that, I was comfortable in myself. And I swear to you, it was like an overnight change. I just was free. I could be free with prospects on the phone, cold calling. I wasn't so like beaten up by it because I was not holding all of this tension in my shoulders, trying to be someone I wasn't. So then, and then you go through waves of this, then you get a little bit more senior and you're kind of like humbled a bit. And that sense of freedom in yourself gets kind of like smashed down again because it's like, well, you haven't been in this leadership position long enough or senior role. So you don't know stuff. I need to teach you stuff. So you kind of flatten out a bit. And then again, you find this new sense of freedom, this new sense of self-awareness where then you have another uptick. So it's, I love that you mentioned that because I don't often hear other people say something similar, that when they start to step into themselves more, they see the success. It's usually me on a panel saying that. So I love that you had that as well, Sandy.
Well, it's just personal experience for me.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer of the white belt mentality, and for me that's kind of really helped. And then I guess like you, for me, I then had more like trust in myself and my own ability, and imposter syndrome starts showing up a little bit less and less every time, because I'm like, oh, I can be Sandy in this room rather than having to be, egghead number 7. Like and that's kind of that's kind of goes back to something else that you speak about a lot, which is trust, and how you can build trust with buyers, and I guess also other members of the team. But I don't know, maybe it sounds corny, but for me, I guess that trust kind of started with myself first, of like, I trust myself to be in this room. So then I can now start thinking about how I build that relationship of trust with the people around me. I wonder if that's something, that's similar, that's happened to you, but maybe not. And if not, what do you kind of advise when it comes to building that trust?
Yeah. You know what? That's one thing that was so normal to me going into sales. And I never understood why reps would just outwardly lie, and why managers would like step around the truth with teams. I don't know why people couldn't communicate. I don't know why there was this fear. It was really weird to me. And I'd grown up in an environment where it was very like communal, very community based, like, walk in and out of our neighbors' houses, and my friends, my godparents, they're like black, white, green, from every background. So that's my privilege. I've had access to so many different types of people. So I found it weird getting into sales. And people just flat out lie. Oh yeah, we can do that. I'm like, we can't. And they say, oh, Hannah, it's not really good for you to, in meetings, sometimes you're too honest. I'm like, but that's not our strength. Why would we say it like, and we're not even planning to make that our strength. We just don't really do that very well. What we do really well is this. So why don't we just speak to 1 million of these companies that have this very specific need? It was just so logical for me. And I thought everyone felt that way, and they don't. So I think when it comes to trust, you have to, I think people who can exhibit trust, to build trust of other people, do have you're right. They have a good sense of trust in themselves. But more specifically, they tend to be quite inherently passionate about what they do. And it's a bit like if you put them in any environment, they will find a sense of purpose in that environment, kind of in general, because they're like, I feel like I know how to bring value. And it's kind of one of the reasons why I stepped out on my own, because I said, I am passionate. When I get in, if I've accepted a job, I'm going to go all out. And I'm going all out, and the company doesn't care as much as I do. So maybe if I put this effort into my own thing, I can maybe, grow something. But trust is really about, are you someone that I can confide in? Are you someone that I believe, right? And sometimes we're just not very good at that. So I always advise people, try to open yourself up and be a bit vulnerable as a way of building trust. Because if I come into this conversation right now and you say, how are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And I ask you, how are you doing? You're like, I'm good. But if you say, how are you doing, Hannah? And I'm like, you know what? Today's been, it's been a tough day. It started off okay, but then I experienced this thing with X, Y, and Z, but I'm getting there and I'm really excited for this call. Now, when I say, and how about you? You're never going to say, I'm good. You will now look and be like, I wonder how do I feel in this moment? And it's just that completely, I always say, like, create your frame. And that frames the conversation now, because now I'm saying, oh, we're going to have a real conversation today, Sandy. This isn't going to be, I'm going to show you the demo. I might not even turn on the demo. I want to know what's happening for you right now. Like cut the BS. I always say you can have 2 types of calls. One where I can kiss your butt, or one where we get real. And they're like, let's do the get real one. So yeah.
It's even like, just before we hit record and started this, you kind of came on and we met each other, and you were like, yeah, it's all good. I've done this day, and then I've just had a cupcake, so I feel good. And I was like, I had an almond pain au chocolat. And then,
yeah,
as you said, that, like, to me, instantly that opened a door. I was like, Hannah's cool. Like, I'm looking, it made me really excited, even more excited. Do you know what I mean? And it's like those stupid little human moments that are, I think, for me, like a key word, I guess, around sort of sales, whether it's being sold to or talking to other people, like it's like, maybe it's a bit confrontational word, but disarming. Like, if you can disarm someone, because sometimes, when you are having these sales conversations, they can be a bit like, confrontational, and you puff your shoulders up a bit, and you're like, I've got my job to do, and he's got his job to do, or and we'll just sort of go in and go for it. And for me, I think personally, I've always thought about that disarming way. And like, you literally did it before I could. You were like, I've had a cupcake, and I was like, oh,
yeah. Great. I mean, the plate's right in front of me.
So like being able to disarm and inject a bit of your own lived experience. And we're all, I don't know, we're to me, we've all got a lot more in common than we often think we do. So being able to sort of jump in and find a shared experience like that, or I went to the gym this morning and it was shit, and I don't feel great afterwards, or I had to drop my son off at school and he didn't finish his homework, so we were doing that until 10 to 9, and then we had to run to school. Like I really love the idea, and it's really cool that someone in your position, someone so senior in this industry, is also advocating for that, because I've mainly encountered the opposite, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And this is why I always say, the more authentic I am, the more I know that I can attract the right people who is like, you know what? I like her. I like her style. I like how she talks. I like how she thinks about problems that matter to me. I like how she's authentic. Whereas there's be some people that are just like, oh God, her again. And that's okay. But what you don't want to do is me invest time, you invest time to only find out that I'm not your person, or vice versa. So I feel like there is something for everyone, and there's someone for everyone. And when you're thinking about that, the whole concept of trust, right? People need to believe something to be true, and then they need to believe that you are someone that delivers truthful information. And oftentimes, the experience that they have coming into a sales environment is that everyone else they've spoken to has not been honest. So I really prefer to keep things real. We had an incident last year where we were working with a customer, and one of the things that we were trying to deliver, it didn't go to plan. And I just said, and we tried again, and we could have made it work, but it just it became so complicated. I just said, just strip out all the systems. And I said, how long did you sign up for the software to deliver that thing? And they're like, oh, 3 months. I said, I'll pay for that. I'll refund you all of that money that you spent on that solution, and we're going to rebuild it. And whatever amount of time you put towards it, there's no cost, because we didn't do it right in the first place. Was that difficult to do? Yeah. But did they ask for it? No. But did that make me feel like it was the right thing to do? Absolutely. We promised you something, we didn't do it. So I'm just going to, all the inconvenience I'm going to pay for, and then we're going to go back and do it properly with a better plan. So it's like, what kind of tone does that set? It gives people, particularly in consulting, right, where it's all trust, right? They are literally saying, hey, you look like a credible person that we can deliver results with. So it's it just sets a tone for, okay, we have this really transparent relationship. So I trust you with the information that you're going to share, and vice versa over time. So it's so important. And I just wish we baked that in early on. And it's not just to deliver trustful information, it's for you to be trustworthy. It's the cupcake example. It's the it's been an interesting day, or like just being a bit more present. I feel like a lot of salespeople, it's like I'm in here for 20 minutes to ask questions and I'm out. And I'm like, yeah, but this is also a human interaction. Someone who, whether they work with you in this instance or not, may be the one person that can unlock this whole thing for you in 10 years' time. Why would you not treat this interaction like that? Like, Sandy, you could be the person that changes my life next year, or vice versa. And I go into interactions like that. I'm like, everyone I meet, I can learn from, I can give something to, and one of us are going to play a part in changing each other's lives. And that's just my mentality with stuff. So it means it just changes how I treat that moment.
It's such a remarkable way of thinking. Is that, you mentioned at the start of the episode that you kind of fractionally go into organizations and, take the lead on sales teams and things like that. Is that something that you bring into your kind of leadership ideology when it comes to sort of trying to turn around a team, or even just a brand new team that have come in? How often does maybe triage is the wrong word, but how often does that kind of treatment start from the sort of top down from you, versus kind of listening to them and figuring out the problems first and going bottom up? Or maybe there's both. I recognize there's a lot in there.
The main consistent theme for my kind of leadership ideology is that everything is possible. And so firstly, customers hate that because they just feel like I'm unrealistic. But I think it starts with the belief that something's possible. If we go in and say, we're never going to be able to do this, but can you help us? I'm like, no, well, no, nobody can, because you've already told me it's not possible. So we need to start from a place of possibility and then build on that. So it's interesting because I don't actually do any fractional work myself, because I am too invested. I told you how I am. So I'm very passionate and I tend to take on too much of the client's problems. And then I can't sleep. I'm like, this isn't, why can't I sleep? I'm coming in to help you and I'm taking on all of your problems. So I had to create a healthy separation. And that's why for Revenue Funnel, we will go in and work with a B2B company to help them to identify and then solve the structural issues that block growth. And when I say structural, that's the big ticket things, people, process, the systems, the overall strategy. Everything that's the commercial side of the organization. And we do that through a model that was created. So the model takes the burden now rather than me. But we come in as a team. So there'll be 4, 5, or 6 of us that will come into an organization and work alongside them to actually make the right changes. But the ideology starts with everything's possible. And then we go from there. But what I am very, I guess when I go into organizations, I sometimes I ruffle feathers, and it's mainly because I try my best to tap into a lot of pockets of of employees and teams where I feel like there's like hidden talent. Like I know there's people in this team that are like superstars, but they've never been given a voice to show how powerful they are. And I see it because customers will be like, oh, don't listen to that person. They just don't know what I'm talking about. I'm like, to be fair, they've got really valid points. I mean, I don't know who's, I think you could promote them. They're like, really? That person? I'm like, yeah, they made some really valid points, better than some of the leadership. And it's like, why didn't you know that? I don't know. I find that remarkable that companies don't know that they've got hidden talent in their own teams, because people have been so used to dismissing people. It's quite sad.
Do you think that's often just because like the sheer bloat of a team as a company grows and gets larger? Or do you think it's like a complacency within the leadership team? What do you think kind of causes those sort of issues?
I think it's cultural.
Right.
Because someone actually, I just read a post on LinkedIn and it was, I think it was one of the designers from Apple who worked with Steve Jobs. And I think the philosophy was, he was a micromanager. He was actually a nightmare to work with. And what the designer said is actually, he wasn't a nightmare to work with. He was someone who made me better at paying attention to detail, and it made me a better designer. And therefore I delivered better results. And I think sometimes we just get so caught up in textbooks and we don't try to develop a culture. If you develop a culture where your job is to bring out the best in people, you'll get the best out of people, right? If you make a culture where your job is just to manage numbers, then your people manage numbers. So there's different things for different things. Like we need managers, we need leaders, we need coaches, we need all these things. However, it's what you build in your culture. And if you're not trying to make people better, then you're not going to make people better. It literally just happens like that.
So I've now stepped into a role within Pitstop where I've got a couple of people on the marketing team as it starts to grow. And something that the Richie, the CEO, kind of taught me as well. He's got a product background, Headspace, Xbox, all this. And the main thing that I've learned is actually often the less I do, the more gets done. And the more I can try and empower the boys, the creative boys, the more I can empower them to like do it and kind of get on with it, the easier my life is. And I'm still questioning whether that's right or not, because again, I'm being lazy. I'm not in the trenches. I'm not in the trenches doing the work. So I'm like, I'm clearly being shit at my job here. But actually, do you know what I mean? I'm like, in terms of sales, I'm like, I'm not doing the calls anymore. So I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything today. I'm not useful anymore. And then imposter syndrome starts whirling, But actually, but then I have a good day where I kind of step back and I'm like, oh, the boys are, the guys have killed it today. They've absolutely smashed this. And like, it looks great. And I show it to the rest of the team and they're like, this looks great as well. And then, we put it out on socials or it's, something like that, and it's a very strange feeling, but and I know there's so many methodologies behind kind of leadership and doing that, but having so many of these conversations, and I've had people like yourself, and then I've had Navy SEALs on who now do leadership seminars across the US and all this. Nice, and they've kind of said a fairly similar thing of like what you just said of like empower your guys, empower your people, and they've been hired for a reason. They've been hired because they're good at this thing. So let them do it, and don't gatekeep. And I don't know. I'm waffling now, Hannah. I'm sorry.
No, it's because you're thinking out loud, and you're in the moment, and I love that. I think I just had more shifts in me, right? So you learn incredible patience as a lot of patience. You know there, and so there's that part. But I think when I started to study coaching and get more involved in coaching, not just like make some more calls, but I mean like real coaching. And I remember I had a coach. It's always interesting. So at one point I had a coach and I had a therapist. Right. And it was so weird because they were like dealing with different parts of me, but coaching seemed to tap into me even more. And I found that really interesting. And I remember talking about, I was in leadership position then, and it was talking about empowerment. And I remember my coach said, I don't like the word empower, because he said it makes it sound like you have to give something to your employees for them to now finally be able to unlock this new version of themselves. He said we should always start with this idea that and it's through proactive coaching, coactive coaching, sorry. And the principle is that everybody is already whole and able, right? So with that, they already have their power. It's not about empowering them or giving more power to them, like you're plugging them in. It's like, I'm already plugged in, right? Maybe it's more of a dimmer switch. And I love that idea. So yeah, with the it's not really about the, again, I'm just thinking out loud here, but it takes a bit of patience, and I wish companies would just take that little moment where they could allow reps to slow down. Because I mentioned this recently. I had a rep who I was working with externally as a consultant, because I was doing all this go-to-market stuff. They just had a sales team that I was hiring, onboarding, training up, etc. And everyone just thought he was weird. Like they just thought he was a bit weird. And then I remember him sharing that he's on the spectrum. If he's listening to this, I hope you don't mind me talking, but he will know who it is. But he said he's on the spectrum. But I was waiting for him to reveal that, because I could sense something. And when he said it, he said, I've never said that in a job. I always hid it. He said, you are the only person that's made me feel confident doing that. And from there, he started to relax more. I said, I need to get you to tap into yourself. And he would just relax more. And he was so successful in his next role. He always messages me on WhatsApp. He's like, I knew I'd become this rep, but I just wanted to say I finally smashed all my targets earlier in the year. I've had a great year. And I said, and he comes back to me. Like, we haven't worked together for 3 years. He always comes back and he's just like, just want to give you an update on my career. And also I'm getting married and all these things. But I say, the power that we have to change someone's life is just, particularly in a leadership role and in sales, like sales is a life-changing career profession. I don't understand why we don't just double tap on that. Like, why would I not want someone to be whole? And it means that you have to take a step back and have that kind of, you have to earn trust, because he would never give me that information if he didn't see me as someone he could trust. And then you have to, like, you provide that space where you can just remind them of their greatness. And then they're like, they just fly off. Like, the most average person will be so great at sales simply because you made them realize how great they are.
So do you think he hadn't encountered leadership like that before working with you? Do you think that's just purely a problem of, again, going back to it, like culture, and perhaps him not getting the coaching or the access to coaching? Because this is something that we found as well, is only X amount of people within the organization, usually more senior members of the team, actually get to receive this coaching and this help to do it. And actually often it's the case that the junior kind of BDRs and stuff, probably the people that need it most, actually are the last ones to ever get it. Do you think that's something that sort of contributes?
Leaders get coaching that is often a bit, well, it depends who they go with, but they get coaching on how to be a coach. That's often what you see in organizations, because they know that coaching is proven to unlock better performance. But what they do is they get coached, to your point, from a frameworks perspective. So you get coached on how you roll out grow as a coaching framework, as an example, right? So it's like, what's your goals? What's the result? What's all this stuff? So it's like, okay, now I know how to do that. And it's like, I've got that. I filled out the acronym, but we're still forgetting the human part, where I'm only going to give you my goals, all of these little elements, but I'm not going to give you me, because you haven't even tried to get to know me yet. And I know that they keep saying, business is not personal. I agree, business is not personal, but people are. because that's what makes up the business. So yeah, it's kind of synonymous to some degree. So you need to get to know me, build trust with me so I can do what I'm supposed to do, which ends up being for you too. So it's unfortunate that at that lower level, the only coaching they get is how to coach through deals, rather than just a deeper coaching for them as an individual, because that would unlock more, like so much more.
You very, very briefly mentioned AI. Where do you kind of see that sort of starting to inject into sales and coaching as it starts to kind of democratize it a little bit and make things a bit sort of easier? Where, you mentioned COVID as well, which was about kind of 5 years ago, and how things have changed. Where do you kind of see things going in the next 5 years?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
Big question, I know.
2027, if I was a leader in any organization, you would have to work your butt off to justify me hiring a junior rep, an SDR, like a junior sales rep, because AI is already right now very advanced, and can do a lot of the things that an SDR can do when it comes to answering, particularly on the inbound side, people that are showing requests, people that are on the website, people that are raising their hand. You generally don't need a sales rep to do that. I don't care how complicated the sale is. It's all down to how things are set up. And I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, but people want the human. It's not that people want a human. They just want to get what they ask for. That is literally it. If you go into a shop and someone comes up to you and you're like, can I get some help? And you're like, no, that's not what I don't know the object, but it's not what I'm talking. I can't explain it. It kind of looks like this. And they're like, oh, 1 second. Let me get my manager. If you came in and a robot was like, I kind of think you wanted to say this. Oh my God, you'll be like, robots are the best. Oh my God, I love robots. Because we get what we want and people really think it's the humans. It's not that. The thing is that they want to have a human experience when they're speaking to a human. That's the challenge. So it's like, I get a crappy experience with you because you're like a robot and you're not listening to me. But if I need to get an answer to something or I need an object, I just want it fast and in the most convenient way. It's not about the mechanism. I don't care. Hence why we have cars, Ubers, trains. It's like, what's the most convenient form of travel for me to get to my end result in the context of what I have right now, which is got £10, I got 20 minutes. Oh, it's going to be a cab, right? That's what it is. So it's like, I think we just lost on that. So AI, very hard to justify people budget for junior sales reps next year. We are going to all as leaders be managing agents, lots and lots of agents, and we're going to be training your creative guys. You'll be teaching them to manage agents because that's what it's going to be. There will be very minimal wastage in stuff over the next kind of year even, right? As in like, they're not going to be doing the research and stuff like that because AI is going to get better at getting more credible sources, the hallucinations, stuff like that. Now, the next thing, which is something I'm going to be writing about soon, that's just piqued my interest is AI is going to change what it means to as our sense of purpose as humans. And I didn't have coherent ideas about this until I listened to something Tony Robbins was saying the other day, and it was really around we've always, until recently it's changed a bit, but for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 decades, we attach our identity to our role, right? Our occupation. So, 400 years it will be like, that's Bobby the bootmaker. That's Sarah the seamstress. That's literally you introduce yourself as your role. You carry that as a badge of honor. That's shifted a lot. And now there's going to be a time, and it's going to come so soon, where there's going to be a lot of roles disappeared. And they said that the world, particularly the government who kind of runs the world to some degree, they are not preparing for the hundreds of millions of individuals who will no longer need to work. What do we do with our time? We've always woken up to work. If you wake up and you have no work, that's going to feel great for about a week or two, maybe a month, do a bit of traveling. How do you introduce yourself? Hey, Sandy, what's the question you ask someone even? Like, what do you do? It's going to go back to what we should be saying, which is, who are you? Right? I know it's a bit deep and philosophical, but for real, the thing, like, it's really going to, what does it mean to be Hannah in 10 years? Because I may not have to work. And then, okay, so where does money come from? How does that get distributed? I really do not think people understand how quick this is going to happen. And we all can't catch up. So that's that. It's all a good, I feel like most of it's positive though. That's the thing. So that's a kind of sentiment for me.
Yeah, I think I kind of made and again, I realize I'm being a bit spiritual hippy dippy. It comes from my mum, but I about 3 years ago or something like that, I really made a point of trying to stop asking people I've just met what they do for a living.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to really try and just stop, because it immediately, like you said earlier, it immediately creates a frame within a conversation. And if I'm at the pub with my friends and I meet a new person that could be my new friend and stuff, I'm like, I kind of don't care what you do at the moment. I'd rather gauge who you are. So I guess I know, I recognize it's situational, but actually even through the lens of a sales call or something like that, usually, and having spoken to some other, guys over the last year and stuff, they're always like, you want to start it with a couple of personal questions, get to know them a bit, see what common ground you have. Oh, I like to surf. Oh, I like to surf too. I learned when I was on holiday. Oh, for now, instead of me kind of asking what someone does, and I recognize sometimes I sound a bit wanky and I'm like, oh, I don't want to know what you do. I'm like, oh no, what do you do for fun? What do you do for fun? What do you like doing?
Well, I don't do fun, Scrooge.
I don't do fun. I work.
I mean, I do work for fun. I love what I do.
No, me too,
say, I always say to reps, like, throw a curveball. And I say, read the room. So sometimes you get on, right? And sometimes you get onto a call and someone's a bit giggly or they've said something and you're like, this is the person that I can break out of script with. So I will ask questions like, Sandy, when's the last time you had a huge belly laugh? Like, you laughed so hard that you were choking. And then they laugh. There you go. They laugh. And then they're like, oh my God, do you know what's so funny? This is so crazy that you mentioned that, because I was just speaking to my daughter and it's like, look at this. Look how the conversation changes. It's like, oh my God, we should probably talk about some business now. I went all the way into London, met with this guy at this big consulting firm. Meeting started late. He still spent 40 minutes talking about his autistic son that is obsessed with, and I even remember it now. What's the little car? Those little racing cars. What are they called again? The Hot Wheels. He said he's obsessed with it. Like, that was 2 years ago. I still remember it. And then he was like, okay, let me just quickly tell you what's happening in the business right now. So 15 minutes. And then we're like, cool, let's catch up. Then he was like, I think my team's in. Let's go and have lunch with them. Then we had lunch with the team. We spent 40 minutes talking about Hot Wheels and his son, because that was important to him right then. So that was important to me. And I was just present with him and we're talking about that. It meant so much to him. His whole body lit up. And we didn't really speak much about business. And I think that's what I mean about creating a human connection that builds trust with a human. However, if he at that time just needed to understand, like, how much does your services cost? He doesn't need me being like, well, it kind of really depends. He just wants to go on my website, click pricing, and it's like, okay, it starts, most projects start around 25K. And he's like, okay, thanks, I know now. Didn't need a human. Oh, we need humans to talk about that. No, we don't. It's not. We've got bigger purposes, but we don't know what they are now because we haven't had to use them for about 1,000 years. We've just been working.
I love that you mentioned purpose so much throughout this. And again, it's something that I think so many of us grapple with, and how quickly the world is changing and us recognizing that needs to. And I know that this is something you mentioned, you mentioned it at the very start of the podcast, the last 7 years you've, turned your own life around and all that stuff. And you've mentioned that you're a parent as well. How has that impacted your own sense of purpose? And you put a post up a couple of days ago on LinkedIn and you kind of mentioned about taking time for yourself and making sure that you do kind of draw that line in the sand and things. And like, that resonated really deeply with me. And I'm very fortunate enough to be part of an organization where the culture is that, where it's like, no, everyone, we need to, practice, sing from the hymn sheet that we sell to other people. Like we need to make sure that you are taking time out. What was the kind of realization for you? You mentioned the guy talking about his son and his Hot Wheels. It sounds like that guy's got his line in the sand pretty solidly drawn. What was your experience with kind of doing that with your son and your career?
Do you know what? I think so. And I've mentioned this before, so I'm more than happy to share. When I got pregnant, I broke up with my partner at the time within 3 weeks. And I remember being like, I've been working my ass off in sales, and I'm just not. Firstly, I'm in debt, so that's annoying. I've just made so many bad financial decisions, but also I'm not where I want to be. But I didn't process that yet. I just remember being like, oh my God, I'm having a kid, and I need to make better decisions, and I'm not in a financial position to give him the life that they need. So I was like, something has to change. So I ended up living with my cousin for like 4 months. And I remember sitting there being like, what are you doing? at what point are you just going to fix up kind of thing, right? So I'm working really hard and helping everyone else, everyone around me, my parents, this, that. So that was a big moment for me. But I think once I came out of that and kind of figured some things out, but what I started to do is figure out who's Hannah? You know, I'm like, how many years? I'm 11 or 12 years into my career now. Who am I? I don't really know. So I'm like, oh my God, I have to have this capacity to love someone, and I need to love myself more in order to do that. And I think what I started to do is, I know you can buy courses and life coaches and stuff, but I just literally got a notepad and I said, if I could do anything with my day, all day, every day, what would it be? I started from there. And then I started to backtrack a bit because I'm like, I've got 11 years of stuff that I've been doing in the sales world. What did I enjoy? So you just have to do this kind of literally notepad. Don't type it, notepad. Feel it with your fingers, write it down, line down the middle. All the things you did, put them in the category, made me feel good, made me feel bad. Took my energy, drained my energy, fed my energy. And then you start to see patterns and you're like, I'm actually quite good at that as well. Not only do I like it, I'm good at that. I'm not good at that. I'm not going to do that anymore. And then you get to a point where you say, what if you start to do that whole my eulogy, what do you want people to say? But I genuinely think it really does make a difference, because what I started to do from 2019 is I only said yes to things that lined up to what I wanted to be remembered for and known for. And it was so black and white, because all these things come at you, particularly as I started to build a brand, and I was like, no, I don't need that. That doesn't line up. Yes, I'll do that. No, that doesn't sound right. Yes, I'll do that. And even though I needed it to be, I still needed to earn money. For me, I really was like, this just makes life so much easier. And that's why I thought so. And then what happens is you go where you feel strongest, and then it's like it just gets reinforced. It's so weird. Opportunities happen, and then other people see and validate that you are actually good at that. Oh my God, you're speaking. Oh, I loved you on a panel. Oh my God, you killed it. Oh, can you do this? Can you do that? And you're like, damn, why didn't I do this when I was 21? But you need to have that experience. So I say that you don't always know your purpose when you come out of school and you start your first job. So my thing is, get into an environment where you can learn and get trained up. That's the biggest thing, because as you start to work and you learn skills and develop skills and you get exposure to other people and scenarios, that's the thing that starts to plant seeds and give you ideas. But the biggest thing is your sense of purpose can change. Don't be anchored in being right. Just keep feeling the right direction. And I say this, and I know this is we're talking regarding the sales context, but there's still people at the center of that. And I think everyone's thinking about what's the best email to send. What's the best hack for booking meetings? And I've shared it in my newsletter this weekend. I'm like, I booked 39 meetings in January by asking people, do you want to meet?
Yeah.
I literally said, hey, we're connected. It's been a while. Why have we never spoken? And they're like, Some people said, I'm really busy. But most people, if I say I've probably connected with or asked maybe 250 people for a meeting, and 40 of them said, yeah, cool. That's it. There's no tactic, guys. It was just me being myself. I was like, let me strip everything back. That's it. And I think that doesn't make sense to people, because they're like, yeah, but didn't you say, hey, is it nice that you got funding? And no, I didn't.
Which methodology did you use? What sort of way around? Yeah.
The Hannah effect. I used the Hannah effect, and it worked.
being the theme of this conversation, just being a human, putting yourself out there. And that's another thing as well. It's a whole other podcast, but fear is such a massive part of it, and I think plays such a huge role in it. And in an increasingly digital world, and I recognize that this it's not lost on me that we're recording this through a screen, but I think a podcast is different, because it's you do get a bit more of an insight. How often do we get to sit and talk to another human for the best part of an hour without looking at our phones once in today's world? And I don't think we do. And I think the fear of a genuine human interaction is only getting higher and higher, despite the fact that we see more faces every day than we ever have, doom scrolling and all this. And I think that does make us scared to do what you've just done. People are scared to talk on the phone these days. They're like, I don't want to call that,
Yeah, don't call me Sandy. I'll do that.
Yeah. It's so interesting.
It is interesting, and you're so right. Someone that I just recently met through these networking calls, who's now my 67-year-old bestie. Nice. I always say that I make best friends with old white men, by the way. It's just it's my thing. They love me. But one thing I will say is that, so he's my new bestie, but he said, I looked at your profile when you connected with me, and I was so excited to speak to you. And I'm so glad we spoke because I knew it would be good. And feedback that I always get, I've been going to networking events. You might have seen me post about this once a week, every week. That's my thing now, this year. And there has not been an event I've attended where someone's like, I just love your energy. I don't go around jumping around, but I'm just very centered now, and I'm very happy with myself, and I can't really be thrown off. So, it's not a networking event around me. It's just they see how I'm interacting with other people, and I'll also often go over to the person who's not talking because I'm like, it just takes them to. They just needed someone to come over and say hello. I did it last week. They were like, "Who's next?" And I just pointed to a woman. I said, "Come on, you go. You introduce yourself." And after the event, she's like, "Thank you so much." She said, inside me, I wanted to stand up. I just couldn't. And then you gave me no choice, but you did it so calmly. And I just said, and look at the intro you gave, and now you've got some new connections. So it's like, so many people have fear. I'm glad I don't, but I do know it's a real thing. I really do know it's a real thing. And it's unfortunate because it's definitely been amplified over the last 5 years. So, yeah.
But I think the reason that you don't have it is obvious from what you've spoken about over the last 45 minutes. You don't have it because you have an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are.
Absolutely,
you can look at it and you go, well, I'm not scared because look at everything I've done. And it goes back to my original point. When you do have these junior people starting and getting into it and they haven't got the coaching and stuff, they don't have that undeniable stack of proof. So it's so hard for them to go into a call with a big scary person and try and sell them something,
Yeah. But you have to find your undeniable stack of truth, which is like, what have you've been born for 23 years. And I feel like 23, 21 years, whatever it is. And I remember one of the reps to me was like, oh, I have to move I should probably move the guitar that I have in the background. I was like, why? That's a conversation starter. But they couldn't, for them, it was like, oh, I'm allowed to do that. It's like, well, who keeps telling these kids that they can't do these things? And I can say kids now because I'm almost 40, so I feel like a whole grown up. But yeah, it's people. Everyone has proof, but when we're told that unless we've done 20 years in this corporate world, that we're not we have zero credibility. We have zero expertise in anything. It's like we're just like some blank canvas. It's crazy. It's really, really crazy and unfortunate because someone that works in a bar, I find, is a better rep than someone who's just went to university, if I'm honest. So it's just like, yeah.
It's conversations, isn't it? It's being able to hold a conversation with someone from all walks of life. I didn't do the bar thing, but in a previous life of mine, I was a water sports instructor. I taught windsurfing in Greece for many years, and one of my mum used to come out on holiday and she would see me for a week. And after I finished that part of my life and moved in, she had a conversation with me one day, and she was like, "It was so funny watching you just play a character for 6 months in Greece, and you would go and act." But she was like, "I don't think you'll realize the skills you learned from that for another few years." And it's only really the last 3 or 4 years that I've been doing this and meeting people and networking and stuff like that, that I'm like, oh, much like you, I'm like, I can talk to anyone because I did that. Yeah. I taught 6-year-olds how to stand on a windsurfboard for the first time. And then I taught their, 60-year-old dads who probably run very huge successful companies, but these are their 2 weeks of holiday that they get a year, and they come out and they put their faith in me to make sure they have a good time. And when I reframed it like that, like for me, that's my undeniable stack of proof.
Yeah.
And I went and did that and I put those yards in. So again, what you just said, I think it resonates a lot. But so many people think that they have to go do the uni and get the thing and get the stupid piece of paper that says it. And it's like, no, dude, like just go and I don't want to do that. Like go and travel and all this, because I recognize some people don't have the ability to be able to go and do that. But it's not even about that. It's just about putting yourself out there and talking to people, and you don't realize what that's going to do for you down the line. And it doesn't have to be someone that you think is going to benefit you. It can be the postman. It can be the person in the gym next to you. Like go and open yourself up to this, and you'll be amazed at how much it will improve your life and improve your opinion of yourself and how you perceive others as well.
Yeah, I think this is why I'm so unhireable. I always say I'm like, nobody would hire me because the rules that I put in place for my team, every leader would hate it. Like my own boss would. That's why I said it had to be the most compelling thing for me to say, oh, I'm going to let someone else run revenue funnel and I'll go and have a job, because I would want my reps to go out every week to any event. Just get out your damn house and go and talk to someone. I don't care, even if it's just something that you enjoy. And the reason why is because I'm trying to keep them actively engaging, communicating, helping them to improve. How do you position yourself? What's my self-awareness? Because what I'm finding at these networking events is people just want to hold the whole stage. They say, introduce yourself for 30 seconds, and 2.5 minutes later, the person is still talking. And it's like, you have just lost all sense of self-awareness because you're not even thinking in the moment. Like the person's like, yeah, okay. Like I went to a networking event and the woman was presenting to everyone and she just said one statement. She asked one question and she just was like, who can do that? And was like, oh yeah, I agree, blah, blah, blah. This woman kept talking and talking and talking. And she was like, yeah, thank you for your contribution. Thank you. Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So thank you. Thank you. And she's like, shut up. Why do I need to tell you to shut up? So it's like, I need you to be out so you can recognize, like, how do I even navigate spaces where I don't take up the whole room and I can be concise. I can be very precise. I can ask intentional questions to get very specific answers back. Like, when you're a rep, you don't often get that many conversations, depending on, how popular your business is. You might go 3 days and not speak to somebody and have a two-way dialogue. So it's just so important that I need you to get out there and talk to people, please. Please. So that's what I'll be doing. So yeah, you can't hire me because just breaking all the rules.
I love that. Well, I think it makes complete sense. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that absolutely would hire you, Hannah.
Oh, thank you.
This has been so great. I've absolutely loved this, Hannah. It's nice to have, like I said to you before we started recording, going down this sales route, and you're kind of the first sort of sales oriented person that we've had on the podcast, really. And it's so lovely that first conversation has been so human. I've really enjoyed it. Where can people go if they want to find out more about what Hannah gets up to?
Yeah, so definitely go on LinkedIn because I post daily. I haven't posted yet, but I post daily. You can check out revenuefunnel.co.uk if you are a B2B company and you think, well, we're growing, but man, what's the next move we need to make? We're superpowered. That's our superpowers. We can figure that out for you. And if you just like vibes, I do 5 networking calls a week. So hit me up. I will chat with you. It's literally as simple as that. I'll chat with you. No agenda. I'll chat with you.
Absolutely love that. Hannah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing all your insights with us. Thanks to all of you for listening. And we will see you all for the next one.
Thank you.